Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Lair. I'm your Loremaster, here today for another look at a god from the Inner Sea region. In this case, we'll be looking towards the River Kingdoms to examine a god that I have long promised a video for. Hanspur, the Water Rat, god of travel, rivers, and smuggling. Let's get started. First, as always, let's look at where you can find information on the god yourself. As usual, Gods and Magic, one book for both editions, is typically the setting off place. However, Hanspur is a minor enough deity that these two are kind of murky sources. Also, he has no appearance as back matter in adventure paths, which means that it is only the Inner Sea faiths which actually paints a large picture of the deity. He does have his streams mapped out in Planar Adventures, of course, but outside of that, side paths you will need to chart with Planar Adventures, Book of the Damned, and the Mask of the Mummy Adventure Path. Long ago, the living Hanspur was traveling along the Selen River with what he thought was a friend. Unfortunately, he was instead a worshipper of the Daemonic Harbringer, Bell. Hanspur was ambushed and drowned, his soul set to be sacrificed. However, Gosrin stepped in, instead taking the soul of the fallen and combining it with his rat familiar, and rising the result as a deity. Since then, the Selen River has belonged to Hanspur and his faith. Which brings us to our first side tangent of the day, the part of the show where we look at two faiths closely intertwined. And when it comes to Hanspur's faith, there is no faith more close, you could say, than that of the Daemonic Harbringer, Bell, the Silent Saint. Daemonic Harbringer of failed martyrdom, false worship, and ritual death. Usually depicted as a muscular six-armed man. Like most Harbingers, we unfortunately do not have much information on him. What we do know is that Bell's worshippers is done through ritual sacrifices to dead or non-existing gods, all to collect souls for himself. While the connection to the faith of Hanspur is the most famous, the mission to eliminate Daemons from the god, countered by the false ritual spread by the Harbinger, there are likely countless other victims whose lives have ended that do not involve drowning. Hanspur, when he appears, is usually dressed in blue, water-resistant clothing, including a cloak over top. His ethnicity can vary, though he often appears in the guise of a Kelid. More on that in just a moment. Outside of that, the main distinguishing feature of the god is the dire rat upon his shoulders. Hanspur, connected to a river which touches so many, has connections to many different cultures and ethnicities. However, the story which stands out the most is that of his Kelid followers. They claim he was once a king of a united Kelid nation, which fell apart at his death. Now they whisper that if they are able to unite the entire River Kingdoms, if they are able to unite Hanspur's domain, the old kingdom will rise again. What role Hanspur would play in this, only the gods know. Those who worship Hanspur are those who are connected to the waterways he protects. Ferrymen, fishers, pirates, and smugglers all pay their respect to the water rat. They are those who live off the land and the water, and their main focus is how to maintain their relationship with the river. Because of Hanspur's soul continuing to operate from his rat familiar, Hanspur has both plenty of worshippers who hold rats sacred, but also rat folk worshippers who believe that the familiar, Ascale, is the true deity. The faith of Hanspur has no central organization. In fact, most priests will only meet their brothers and sisters by chance. For their own duties, most priests work to protect those who are traveling the river from harm, or at least from unnatural hazards. Natural hazards are just part of the Selen. Most priests perform ceremonies to their god at dusk, their belief being that this was the time that the water rat was drowned. These ceremonies usually consist of a simulated drowning of self, or the actual drowning of others for those worshippers tricked by Daemons. Speaking of which, Daemons are the natural enemies of Hanspur's faith, and priests make it a point to hunt them down. Which brings us to a second side tangent: Daemons. Because, as I have taken the time to talk about lesser-known fiends, we have yet to discuss some of the basics. Once upon a time, Abaddon was completely empty. However, when the first cataclysm, the first massive loss of life came about, the river of souls overflowed and souls washed up on the shore. These souls fought and consumed others, until the first Daemon arose. The souls then called for other souls, consumed by nihilism and abandoned, and they all came, reforming into Daemons. And since then, the Daemons have worked to bring an end to all souls in the universe. It is said that when they kill all other creatures, they will then work to kill each other. Then, when only one Daemon remains, they will enjoy the emptiness of existence before their own light is snuffed out. The faith is one full of travelers, so stationary temples are rare. They can instead be found on rafts or barges which travel the length of the river. Others have small altars outside the city gates, which is where the worshippers meet the few times they congregate. In addition, the river Selen itself can have prayers offered through it, with candles, coins, or other offerings set afloat down the river. The largest temple is, of course, on the north shore of the Lake Selen, between the River Kingdoms and Kionin. Made of thousands of barges lashed together to make an artificial island, it is here many worshippers make pilgrimages to interpret signs from their god. Hanspur's divine realm is a series of rivers which cross through the maelstrom. As all things which survive in the maelstrom, these waterways do not last for long, constantly changing the path they flow. That said, he also claims a portion of the river Styx for himself, and uses it as a hunting ground to eliminate Daemons. Except, of course, for Thunder Daemons, who safely ferry people across. Which, of course, brings us to the third side tangent of the day: the river Styx, a river which flows through multiple planes. The river starts in Abaddon, where it is ruled by Charon, but also feeds the swamps of Plaguemere, ruled by Apollyon. The river reaves through the maelstrom, where it touches the outer rifts, creating many a demonic realm. I've been saying Daemon, that I got it wrong. Demonic realm. Hell, where it creates the swamps of Stygian, and eventually passes through Axis to the Boneyard, where it pools at the base. Overall, the second most dangerous river, only eclipsed by the River of Souls itself. Rounding us off as we close in on the end, let's go with a speed run of extra information. The only place of worship of Hanspur is found in the River Kingdoms. For holy texts, the closest that we have are the 6 river freedoms, the laws of the River Kingdoms. Finally, there is no organized holidays of the faith. just a celebration of Hanspur's death and rebirth, which each follower insists on different days. Now for relationships, starting with planar allies, having control over part of the Styx, Hanspur has that domain which watched over by a unique Daemon, known as the Lost Ferryman. With a deal struck that kept the boatman from being destroyed, now he protects the freedom to travel even on the river Styx. Hanspur's herald, in turn, is Ascale's brood, a swarm of rats born from his familiar. They move as a single rave, speak with a single voice, and can swim as easily as fish. For relationships with other gods, Hanspur is a bit of a loner. You would think being brought back to life by gods would make them allies, but their relationship is cold for some reason only known to the two. Similarly, Pharasma is not a fan of his for not staying dead. There's also a strained relationship between the goddess of the other major river in the Inner Sea region, Roget. But for actual positive relationships, he and Vesmara both value freedom, and while they are not friends in that sense, they are more than happy to help each other out when their interests align. And as equally deities found among the Khelids, he has a respectful relationship with Garona. His most constant relationship, however, is his hatred for all things Daemon. But let us expand on one of these relationships with our final side tangent, Wadjet. One of the deities of Osirian, based off of All World's Egyptian mythology, Wadjet is the personification of the river Styx. Sphinx, not Styx. The central river through Osirian, which brings life to the nation. She appears as a woman with the head of a cobra, or a cobra with the head of a woman, both with colorful wings allowing her to fly. She is the protector of all life within Osirian, protector of the pharaoh, and mother of serpents known as Orasus and other good-line serpents. With all that focus on protection, no wonder she is not the biggest fan of a foreign river god. And that brings us to the end of today's video. I did my River Kingdom video years ago at this point, and finally got a chance to make it complete by speaking on its guardian. Still have a few of the minor gods to talk about as we march our way to the War of the Immortals, where everything might change. But likes of Hanspur and Garona, they still will be doing their own thing when the world ends? Or will they be stomped under the heel of larger fish? Only time will tell, but until then, see you next time.